This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Magmageddon for a 3v3, which has been claimed to be of pretty epic proportions. And in the north as the green left side player, he is allies, he is SiKo. S-I-K-O, I have no idea who it is other than that. He does have another account named Rico, or R-I-K-O, Rico potentially, I don't know. But in the middle, from Team NACL, playing as the mid lane player, it's Happy. And in the south, rounding out the left side team as the Cyan Empire from Team H2O, Kiro. On the right side from teammates as the Blue Soviets, it's Messican. And in the mid lane, playing as the Yellow Allies, potentially the highest ranked player in this game, it's Vindies. And the player in the south, the final one to introduce, he is Purple Allies from Team H2O, GoDoFWaR. Trashing it up in the last tournament, taking out some mid-level players in just dominating style. But again, Vindies, Kiro, GoDoFWaR, players that we have all heard of in the past, or hopefully you have. Messican, Happy, hopefully you've heard of these guys as well. They've been playing quite a few games. I don't actually know if Messican's been playing a lot of games recently. I know Happy has been pretty active for definitely the last couple of months, and Kiro doing some just shenanigans with these dojos being so annoying. He went for, like, what was it, a quad dojo opener? I'm assuming a quad. He forgot his engineer, unfortunately. When you're trying to do this sort of stuff, if you're not on top of your game, then you are definitely going to be leaving stuff behind. And, on top of that, Happy drops down a multi-gunner turret, and that multi-gunner turret has already paid for itself by killing off that ore collector, and even more so by forcing the sell-off of that refinery. May even get a Peacekeeper or a Javelin Trooper for his trouble, which would just make Happy even happier, as we do have a Vindicator going to be coming in as well. Imperial Warriors heading north for Kiro. Not sure where they're going to be going, because they could be used down here to help Happy if he wants to try to break on further. At the same time, dogs killing dogs, and in the north, Messican pushing out with a pretty big mess of conscripts. And I remember there was a 3v3 VOD that I watched quite some time ago, like years ago, and it was just conscript spam right from the beginning. And just one team, I think they had like 2 Soviet players, and both of the Soviet players just spammed out so many conscripts, and they just won the game because the other players were playing more eco and just were not ready for it. At the same time, SiKo is going to be getting pushed back. Messican just slamming the door on absolutely everything. Javelin Troopers and Riptides from Vindies bringing up the rear, going to be helping him to do the damage that he needs. The Javelin Troopers are really the units that you have to be careful of. And on top of that, we do have an engineer. Oh my word, did Vindies sell his MCV? No, his MCV is right there. That engineer must have been for some other purpose, but now it's going to be helping him bring down that MCV. Rather not the engineer, but these conscripts as well from Messican, just going to be helping to lock down this. Oh, the MCV is going to be able to do a fair amount of damage with the crushes. Goodbye, MCV. SiKo could be getting locked out of this game extremely quickly, and suddenly Messican is just making drives right through the top of the map with his buddy Vindies, who's just been able to do some pretty devastating amounts of damage, as there goes down the third refinery for Messican, the third refinery for Vindies as well. In the north is really the only main action in this game. GoDoFWaR finally going to be getting himself reestablished in his main base, locking up those 2 refineries, looking to expand to a third, while getting Tengu harassed by Kiro. Kiro at the same time is going to be taking a third, potentially even a fourth relatively quickly, although it looks like he's just going to be content to sit on the 3 bases for now. GoDoFWaR taking a fair bit of damage. SiKo has been defeated and leaves everything to Happy. Happy is not going to be very surprised. He's not going to be happy with that. I was trying to find a way around that, but no words were coming to mind. And at the same time, Vindies is not... Wow, where is that laser going? It just disappears there. Oh, no, it keeps going. Wow, it disappears into the terrain, and then it's never heard of again. But until it actually finishes off that refinery, that bug probably will remain. At the same time, it is now a 3v2. But Messican and Vindies... Actually, Messican... Nope, that's not a 4th refinery. For a second, I thought Messican actually had up his... He does have a 4th refinery. How about that? He's now soon going to be going for his Tier 2, as I don't think he ever had time to get out his Tier 2. He didn't need to get out of War Factory, but Happy has had some time to build up, and of course he and Kiro were able to put the hurt on GoDoFWaR. Kiro and Happy, if they work together, they may be able to push GoDoFWaR simply out of this game. We will have to see. But Vindies is actually just trashing every single wall. I kind of have an idea that Vindies may just be looking to push north to take over that base, but no, he's going to be Happy. I gotta stop saying Happy just because the player is in here is named Happy, and at the same time, Happy, he's got, is it 2 or 3 airfields? He's gotta have 2, right? I mean, he has like too many Vindicators to not have 2. I do believe Messican with 4 Bullfrogs. 2, maybe 3 of them going to be getting eaten up pretty quickly here. Tengus all do transform. They'll get an Engineer, they'll get a Javelin Trooper, and a couple of Bullfrogs as well. They might be able to clean up the airfield if they get away from the multi-gunner turret. They do pull back, allowing Happy's units to take to the front lines. The Riptide's going to be hunting down that one Terror Drone. They do get the kill on it, will get the surround on the multi-gunner turret, allowing Happy's infantry just to help clear up the multi-gunner turret. They're going to be the brunt of the damage. I mean, really, Riptides don't do that much damage versus buildings. Vindies and GoDoFWaR together going to be slamming down the Cryocopters, which is really an important move, and just keeping that Cryocopter count is so low, even in 3v3s, 1v1s especially, but even in 3v3s, Cryocopters can become so dangerous. So keeping that count low is extremely good for Vindies and GoDoFWaR. At the same time, Messican, as you can see, he's starting to mass expand. And if some of you guys have seen FFAs where a player gets left to their own devices, that player in this 3v3 could be Messican. He's on the north side. He doesn't have anyone directly across from him. Kiro, Happy, GoDoFWaR, and Vindies are going to be fighting amongst themselves, and at the same time, we can have Messican up in the north, just expanding all across the map, taking over so much, taking over so many refineries that he'll just be able to mass out an insane amount of units and just spam out more units than any of the other players could possibly match. And of course, that could lead his team to victory. At the same time, GoDoFWaR is actually going to be in some serious trouble. Now, the forces have torn north, this mixed army of just a little bit of everything. Oh, this is not good. These hammer tanks need to pretty much get out of there. They are going to be in very dangerous situations if they do not vacate the premises, because, come on, against that many assault destroyers, they will crush you to death. GoDoFWaR trying to find some targets for his Apollos. He's not going to be able to do all that much. At the same time, this Tengu is infected. Not too big of a deal there. However, of course, you do need to make sure that that one Terror Drone doesn't end up chaining up into a whole series of kills. Happy is going to be packing along those great assault destroyers just to make sure that he's got the extra armor boost for his and Kiro's units. And this is a great example of teamwork between these two guys. And at the same time, I don't know if Messican should be all right. He's had a lot of opportunity to do what he wants. Happy is going to be splitting off units to deal with Messican, which is definitely a good move, while Kiro is dealing damage almost directly to Vindies. Pretty soon he's going to be dealing damage directly to Vindies. Happy turns north to deal with Messican, and actually Messican, he doesn't have a whole lot of units here. Vindies is going to be swinging along north, and GoDoFWaR, surprisingly enough, is the one who's been able to just macro up a little bit, get some units out, and actually, this Tier 2 Conyard could be in a little bit of peril, depending on if this infantry army moves forward. Vindies does have a couple of units mixed in here, but the infantry army is going to be moving forward, and of course, with this many tank busters, the multi-gunner turret doesn't pose too much of a threat. One power plant will be going down, and with this many Imperial Warriors, individual Peacekeepers shouldn't be too much of a trouble, but at the same time, that one single Peacekeeper is being a huge trouble. That's a lot of Peacekeepers. They just cleaned up both of those hammer tanks before they can actually get proper crushes off on that infantry army, something that you'd normally see just a lot of, Peacekeepers die to a couple of hammer tanks, but at the same time, in this case, those hammer tanks just got trashed. Happy is going to be losing pretty much all of his infantry. I don't think any of them survived. No, none of them did survive, which means he's just got a couple of those assault destroyers left. While GoDoFWaR and Vindies pushing down the lane, heading straight for Kiro. Kiro is going to be trashing Vindies' base. And Vindies, he doesn't have a whole lot to show for himself. This is mostly GoDoFWaR's units here mixed in. And Happy is going to be closing in the trap. Happy is also clearing out the skies, not allowing GoDoFWaR to build up too many Cryocopters. He does have still a couple of Cryocopters, which will allow him to blast through the ranks of his opponents, especially if he actually freezes the ones that his guys are going to be engaging. As this final Assault Destroyer does get cleaned up, Messican can breathe a little easier. The MCV of Happy is in a kind of dangerous position, being in this close of proximity to both Messican and Vindies' MCV, as Vindies curling up around the top side of the map could be in a pretty good position to start assaulting Happy more directly, potentially even with some sort of weird base push, as As uncommon as it is, base pushes do indeed happen in Red Alert 3. GoDoFWaR actually starting to make some headway, but Happy should be able to just stop him dead in his tracks with this. Okay, maybe not against 4 cryocopters. We're going to have to see how this turns out. Of course, Javelin Troopers in the back. If they're allowed to have free reign, they'll be able to clear the skies without too much trouble. One of these Apollos does come in, but there's 3 Apollos from Vindies going to be able to just eliminate that Apollo from really being in trouble. And there we go. Messican coming in with the Terror Drone, the Hammer Tanks as well to lock down that MCV of Happy. And suddenly, Happy, is he going to be able to stay in this game too much longer? He's getting assaulted from the front. He's losing his MCV on the north side. And at the same time, does he have a whole lot to show for himself? And the answer, I think, is no. He's got a couple of Dolphins. Now, fortunately for Team Right Side, there's nothing for these Dolphins to really kill. But oh my word, that is so many Tengus. What has Kiro actually been doing this entire game? He's spammed out so many Tengus. I feel like I'm watching something from a couple of years ago. Wow, that is just an insane amount of Tengus. Like, just don't see that many Tengus in 1v1, which is, of course, why 3v3 is great, because you can do stuff like this. And this is almost what it's like when I play, because I just say, I'm going to build 1 unit. So then, you know, if I lose, I say, oh, well, I was just building that 1 unit, except for Kiro's actually good at this game, and I am not. At the same point in time, we do have Hammer Tanks moving forward, and I think this is going to be spelling the end for the majority of Happy's forces. He does not have his original MCV. He may have been able to rebuild one at some point. He does have a seaport, which means he still can technically rebuild his MCV, but Kiro, can he actually clean up GoDoFWaR's base before GoDoFWaR escapes? Well, the MCV is already on the way north. If he's not actually able to do anything, I mean, maybe he can get out. I'm not actually sure if there's any oil derricks he could capture. There's very few oil derricks left on the map that he can capture. A lot of them have been destroyed, and quite a few of them are owned. Well, quite a few. One of them is going to be actually owned by his ally, which means he can't actually capture it. So potentially GoDoFWaR could be in a position where he just doesn't have any cash to do anything. And he's dropped down a beacon. Not sure exactly what he's trying to beacon. Potentially he saw, you know, some units of Kiro heading off to get him. And 2 Dolphins will be able to clean up the stuff up north. I don't think there's too many base defenses. No, Vindies and Messican don't really have a whole lot going for them. An airfield has been established, a multi-gunner turret as well, just to clean up that refinery for Kiro. Kiro, on the other hand, is going to start taking more direct damage. He's got a whole cloud of Imperial warriors to defend him, and tsunami tanks are going to be getting pulled back from the front lines for him. While ore collectors getting cleaned up and this refinery is definitely forfeit, this other refinery is just getting swarmed by Tengus, and with the super reactor surely going to fall, things aren't looking particularly good for any one single player. I don't know about leaving the, you know, heroic and elite Tengu behind here. He might get a full rank up. He sacrifices his buddy, almost loses his life as well. But of course, point defense drones are going to be pretty nice there. Tsunami tanks getting pulled back. 2 of them completely heroic. Messican does indeed have a couple of Twin Blades just camping out over here. Wow, they're actually fully elite. And Vindies bringing in the Apollos just to guard those 2 Twin Blades. A nice move there. A lot of just tandem movements, tandem strikes from these players. They're just moving out together, really coordinating in ways that we oftentimes don't really see. However, we are seeing some solo play. I mean, not everything is a brilliant tactical decision by the team, nothing quite like that. But Hammer Tanks getting eliminated and 2, maybe even 3 or 4 of these bullfrogs. And yes, indeed, that heroic Tengu from the north, a couple of heroic Tengus up here killing off that super actor. Then they came on down south to meet up with their buddies and also kill off those bullfrogs, which is just a good move by Kiro. Was able to get some nice kills there. Really saved a lot of, I don't know about saved his team, but saved a lot of stuff from happening to his team, as he was able to do some pretty heavy damage to not only GoDoFWaR, but also Messican in the north. Even now, I mean, he's got 3 or 4 fully heroic tank busters just running around the map doing so much damage. GoDoFWaR cannot be happy with that harvester and refinery placement, and even with this many Imperial warriors, still that harvester gets like 4 kills, potentially could have even gotten some more. And oh, engaging a multi-gunner turret, never a good idea, but he does so with pretty minimal losses. GoDoFWaR wasn't able to clean up that many of the Imperial warriors. Vindies multi-gunner turret won't fare too much better, but again, just cleaning up more and more of these Imperial warriors, weakening the force, and making the Tengus that much more necessary. I wonder if GoDoFWaR will actually get any crushes. He is going to be getting crushed on 1, potentially 2. No, couldn't even get 2, as right there, NACL Happy has been defeated. Kiro, the last standing man on his team. Things are looking dire, but at the same time, he's got such an impressive force of units on the north side of the map. He's going to be buying as much time as he can in the south, macroing to the best of his ability, and trying to keep every production structure constantly just churning out unit after unit. His economy should actually be pretty insane for just a single player, but does he actually have the fortitude to hold off 3 of his opponents all attacking him at the same time? Well, we'll have to see, because potentially that may not be happening, as Messican is going to be losing his MCV. The multi-gunner turret here isn't going to stand very long for Vindies, and Vindies, the naval yard is going to be going down. Messican has been defeated. His stuff goes to GoDoFWaR, and suddenly it's GoDoFWaR and Vindies versus Kiro. Which, I mean, ordinarily you'd again be saying, hey, that's not too fair, but Kiro, I feel like, has a lot more infrastructure and a lot more going on for him than either one of his opponents. Now, together, potentially, Vindies and GoDoFWaR will be able to overwhelm Kiro. It's like 3 refineries for Vindies, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 for GoDoFWaR. Okay, so yeah, actually 5 for GoDoFWaR. He should be all right. He's actually got a fair amount of stuff. Vindies isn't in too hot of a position. GoDoFWaR may be the one that this all comes down to, Kiro and GoDoFWaR. I mean, Kiro may be able to just make this happen. He's got a lot of units. Tsunami tanks pressing forward. 1 assault destroyer is getting caught. There's a Cryogeddon, a split, slamming that X key, a double Cryogeddon. Allies OP. I don't know if we can say this right now since 2 of them, but oh my gosh, that much cryo is just insane. And, oh, Vindies packs up his MCV just to let his multi-gunner turret get those shots off, and Tsunami tanks, they're going for the full surround. I mean, as you can see, Kiro actually speed boosts a couple of those Tsunami tanks. He's just trying to mess with the pathing, get the full surround as much as humanly possible, which is a great move here from Kiro. Goodbye MCV, and Kiro has just about single-handedly, I mean, he basically single-handedly eliminated Messican. He didn't do all the damage to Messican, but he did a lot of the damage to Messican, and now he may very well be single-handedly wiping Vindies out of this game, and then it'll be really coming down to GoDoFWaR and Kiro, and again, for which I believe Kiro is in a inferior position to GoDoFWaR, but Vindies is technically still in this game. He may not have an MCV, very many refineries, or production facilities. In fact, he may have 0 production facilities at all, which means at this point, he's just gathering money to eventually give away to GoDoFWaR. And I mean, at this point, it may be just time to call it quits, and Mates Vindies has been defeated, and suddenly, there's a lot of purple on this map, and again, Vindies just did not have a whole lot to give away to GoDoFWaR. So GoDoFWaR probably has just an insane amount of cash right now that he cannot spend. I'm not sure what his production facilities are like. He's got triple racks down there. Power plants. Power plants. Airfield. Yeah, he's got triple barracks production, which, granted, Peacekeepers, Javelin Troopers, Tanya, Spies, these are all good units. But is he going to be able to deal with the Tier 2 Empire Army? Well, maybe not just the Tsunami tanks, but that's a lot of tank busters. Where are the Tengus? Where are the Tengus to clear out these cryocopters? Because otherwise, GoDoFWaR is going to definitely be standing a chance. And again, it does depend. My word, these armies are just actually kind of insane. I feel like every time I look at them, they've like doubled in size or something like that. But these cryocopters absolutely have to be dealt with. I don't know that Kiro can win if the cryocopters are in the air. He may not even be able to win if the cryocopters aren't in the air, but at least he stands a much better chance against GoDoFWaR if the cryocopters are not in the air. Right now, GoDoFWaR can freeze down, 4 different units at a time, potentially, and he's just chewing away at these infantry lines. There's a whole bunch of Tsunami tanks in the north just going to be crashing down onto not the main base, but a base, the production center for the infantry units of GoDoFWaR. Bringing in the Tsunami tanks is a great choice here, but no, the Shrink Ray is going to be eliminating the ability for these units to crush, which, of course, since he used those nano deflectors to get them the speed boost, that means that Kiro could not really do anything with those units. And that one guy, he's like, don't worry, Kiro, I got this. I'll just kill this refinery and then move on to kill the rest of the base. Oh, Kiro pulling an Eminence where you slam the F key on all of your tsunami tanks and hopefully get crazy crushes, as Eminence sometimes does. But in this case, he was not able to do it, and Kiro is just absolutely up against the ropes. But he does technically still have a chance in this game. GoDoFWaR will most likely just be meat grinding this entire base and just slamming through the entire thing. But I mean, technically, Vindies technically has a chance because he hasn't left the game yet. But you gotta hand it to GoDoFWaR, Vindies, and Messican able to pull this one off. Of course, the easy kill of SiKo earlier in the game did definitely give them an advantage, and Messican had some nice ease. But a good back and forth and some legitimate moments of worry for our team on the right side. Magmageddon just to add insult to injury, freezing down a refinery and a Tengu to make sure that there's no advantage that GoDoFWaR does not have as allies over this Empire opponent, even bringing in, wow, one of those Vindicators going fully heroic. I always love seeing the bombs from fully heroic Vindicators, as Kiro has been defeated, and that will do it for this game. 22-ish minutes of action? It looks like something like that. I'm not actually sure. 21 minutes and, 21 minutes or thereabouts of action. Some really nice gameplay from these guys. Again, it's a 3v3 with a ton of action and a nice kind of back and forth cadence to it. It was a bit one-sided as team right side was able to make some good headway early on and then roll that into an eventually victory, but it would be not fair to say that Happy and Kiro did not play their parts in demolishing some face in Red Alert 3 in this 3v3. They did some solid damage, had some good fights, and put on a good show for us throughout the game. So, of course, thank you all very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and this is Sybert signing out.